Hello everyone, Rebecca here, I am Mama24. In today's video, I'm going to be stamping some purple hydrangeas featuring a clearly besotted stamp set. So I'm going to start off with the stamp set called Hydrangea Harmony. This is by Clearly Besotted, and I'm really proud of myself. I'm going to be using every single stamp on the stamp set. And it's not very often that happens. This is a layering stamp set, and I'm going to be using the Distress Oxide inks that you see off to the side there to stamp my hydrangeas. I'm going to start with the lightest color of the purples, and I'm going to use that to stamp the background of this layering stamp set. It is the Shaded Lilac Distress Oxide ink. These inks are really good for stamping. I'm happy with the crispness that I get from them. I am, however, stamping everything twice just because it's a kind of a habit, and I like to get the best image that I can with my stamping, and I've got the MISTI, so why not, right? So for my base layer for the leaves in this set, I'm using the lighter green, which is the Twisted Citron Distress Oxide ink. And I'm gonna use my Simply Chamois by Stampin' Up! To clean off my stamps before I start using the flip side of my MISTI to stamp the top layer of my stamps. Somewhere along the way, I got smart here and I put some washi tape on my MISTI to help lift the lid a little easier. And I'm now putting the stamps on my opposite side of the MISTI here. I'm keeping the original stamps, as you can see up in the right hand corner there on the MISTI door itself. I'm using the standard side MISTI here, so I have room enough to keep all the stamps on my platform. This way you can go ahead and make more stamping while you've got them out. And if you need to restamp, if you smudge or something, you've got everything set in its place and you don't have to worry about that. So the top layer for the purple hydrangeas, I am using Wilted Violet Distress Oxide ink, and for the leaves, the top layer is Mowed Lawn Distress Oxide ink. So here is a look at the finished stamping. Love the layered hydrangeas. The leaves are really pretty too. This will dry back a little bit. It won't be as vivid in the finished card. So I'm cleaning off my stamps, and I'm going to cut this portion away from my stamped paper, and I'm going to put some temporary adhesive there to put it back into my MISTI because I wanted a second set of leaves for my card. So I'm using the Twisted Citron again for my background leaves, and then I'm going to put it into the bottom corner, pull off my layering leaf stamps, and stamp them again with the Mowed Lawn Distress Oxide ink once I get them all lined up. I don't have the dies for these stamps, so I'm going to do some fussy cutting. I really don't mind fussy cutting. It's kind of satisfying for me. I just wanted to show you here how I actually do my fussy cutting. You can see my scissor hand really isn't moving. All my scissor hand is doing is closing the blade of my scissor, and the other hand is moving my paper around. So it's cutting the image just where I need it to, and my scissor really isn't moving. And this is a better way to do it so that you don't rip the paper as you move the scissor blade around. It can kind of snag your paper and cause it to rip a little bit. So by holding your scissors still and moving your paper with the opposite hand, you get a really clean cut. Preferably, you would want to use a scissor with a smaller blade. For my background, I'm going to die cut the Sunny Studio Frilly Frames Lattice die. This is a two-piece die. I'm going to be using both of them today with the lattice portion taped into the center there so it doesn't move in my die cutting machine. I use Post-it tape to keep my die together while I put it through the die cutting machine. And because this die is so intricate, I pulled out my Spellbinders tool-in-one, and I'm using the brush and the pokey end to get all the bits and pieces out of my die. Worked beautifully. I'm folding a piece of Nina Solar White cardstock here for my card base. As a matter of fact, that is the same cardstock I used for the stamping, die cutting, and my card base in today's card. I've cut a strip of foam tape now from my big roll of Scotch 3M foam tape, and I'm cutting that strip into thinner strips so that I can put it on the back of my lattice die. And I'm only going to do the outer 4 sides. I wasn't going to be crazy and try and cut tiny little slivers to get the inner portions of the lattice. I'm just going to strategically put glue on my hydrangeas for the card front as to not put glue onto my card base. Those scissors, by the way, are by Tim Holtz, and they have a non-stick serrated edge, so those are the perfect thing to use to cut your foam tape. I put my white lattice die cut onto my card base. I'm going for a bit of a tone-on-tone look here. And then I started fiddling with my stamped images, trying to figure out where I wanted them on my card front. I'm not going to lie, I fiddled with them for probably about 5 minutes, and then I decided to glue the leaves onto the backs of the flowers and pop one of those pieces up with foam tape. And then I'm going to use my multi-matte medium to only put glue on the lattice portions and stick my second hydrangea underneath that first popped up one. For my greeting, I'm going to be using a stamp also from Clearly Besotted. This is the Say It With Banners. The stamp here reads, "Have a fabulous birthday." I stuck that stamp onto the door of my Misty, and I'm inking it up with the Twisted Citron Distress Oxide ink. Again, I'm doing it a couple of times just to get a really crisp, clean image, and I also fussy cut this out. I'm using some more foam tape to pop up my sentiment and put that onto the card base. And I'm going to use those remaining hydrangea blossoms to decorate my banner a little bit. The one I put underneath the banner, just tucked it in there a little bit, and the other one I'm putting straight on top. Off camera, I put some Stardust stickles onto the centers of my hydrangeas, and this card is finished. Thank you so much for joining me today. A full supply list of what I used to create today's card is in the description box below. Bye-bye for now, and I'll talk to you soon.